Good morning, everyone. Both to those who join us here at Chulalongkorn University and those who are joining us online via Zoom. My name is Pataranutaporn. I'm the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs here and also the Director of the Master and PhD program in Psychological Science, which is the program that is hosting the event today. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the Psychological Science Special Talk, Cyborg Psychology, Studying Human AI Interaction for Promoting Human Flourishing. So today we are extremely fortunate to have with us someone whose career truly embodies the spirit of innovation. So before I introduce our distinguished speaker, I would like to share some context behind this special gathering. So each year, our psychological science program seeks to expose students and faculty to the frontiers of research. And this year, with the world abuzz with artificial intelligence, we wanted to bring you a voice at the center of this transformation. Our speaker this morning is Dr. Pataranutaporn,
Right.
yeah, who graduated earlier this year and has been just appointed assistant professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. He is also the co-director of the Advancing Human in AI Research program at the MIT Media Lab, an interdisciplinary initiative at the cutting edge of human AI interaction. And Dr. Pat is known internationally for his pioneering work at the intersection of biotechnology, wearable computing, and artificial intelligence. His research focuses on augmenting human potential, exploring new emerging technology, how technology can empower personal growth, creativity, and well-being. And some of you might have seen his TED Talk, and that was very inspiring to audience around the world to think what it means to be human in the age of intelligent machines. So what makes today truly special is the serendipity of timing, because Dr. Pat is currently back in Thailand on vacation, and we were incredibly lucky to catch him during this week. Despite being on break, he graciously agreed to join us in person today to share his insights, so we are truly appreciate. So without further ado, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Pat.
Well, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here at this amazing institution. This is actually the fifth time coming back to Chulalongkorn University. So it's a big honor. The title of today's presentation is called Cyborg Psychology, Designing Human and AI Systems for Human Flourishing. I've been thinking a lot about this actually being here. I'm actually leaving Thailand this afternoon. So I've been thinking a lot about, how can I, help introduce this concept in a way that's sort of inspiring our next generation of research in this topic. So I've been thinking about, how should I start this talk? I actually never given a talk at the psychology department before. I usually invited to like engineering program or, program that's more related to technology. But, since the topic, has the word psychology in it, I thought maybe I should start with, Freud, the father of psychoanalysts. But I think that would be, less expected. So I would start with this person instead. Do you know this person? Yeah, she's a very famous singer in Thailand, Ying Li, right? And she had this song that I think really captured the essence of today called Jai Thơ Lab Berto. And I think the reason that this song is really interesting, if you look at the lyrics of it, it has something very, very profound. For example, the first thing is say, ท่านกำลังเข้าสู่บริการรับฝากหัวใจ which means that you can now leave your heart at some kind of service, right? This is really, really interesting because it's actually about how you can see yourself, not just as human, but a kind of, fragmented body part. You can leave your heart somewhere, right? This is what Sherry Turkle, who is also a great scholar of human technology relationships, said, a second self, right? You can leave a second self to a service, right? Maybe it's an AI service, like what you've seen in her movie. And then the second thing in the lyrics, ลงทะเบียนฝากไว้ตัวเอากลับไปใจให้เก็บรักษา This is also a really interesting sentence because they talk about how you can leave the body, you can, leave the body and left the heart somewhere else, right? This is a kind of cyborg, right? Like you can separate the body and the mind or the body and the heart from one another, right? This is, really challenging binary dualism that Descartes talk about, or really representing, ghost in the shell type of spirit, right? Where you can really see this separation between the two. So I think, when we look at the song like this, it's really popular in Thailand. It had like millions of followers. It really shows that we are already cyborgs, right? We already have the mentality and the culture that support this kind of thinking. So in a way, the idea of cyborg psychology is not just for the future, it's actually for now, right? Cyborg psychology is for everyone. But before I talk about this, I want to introduce myself a little bit. So my background is actually in the area of human-computer interaction. My research currently is at MIT Media Lab. I finished my PhD there, and also, recently appointed as a faculty to continue this research direction. I usually, my research usually published in, scientific journal like Nature, or like in a human-computer interaction venue like SIGCHI or IEEE, and has been sort of, featured in many places from, MIT Tech Review, Time Magazine, The Guardian, and many places. And my work has been, in collaboration with many of the organizations that are pushing the frontier of AI, like OpenAI, Microsoft Research, IBM, NASA, and even Thailand, like KBTG, for example. The lab that I'm part of is called the MIT Media Lab. In Thai, it might translate to Nite, right? Or something related to media and communication. But the word media in the Media Lab, actually has a deeper meaning than that. The Media Lab is the birthplace of many of the technology that we're using today, from touchscreen, the word AI was pioneered there, wearable computing, social robots, many of the things we've seen here. It's because the word media in the MIT Media Lab doesn't mean, media like television or social media, but it means medium. Mediums that allow for human expression, medium that connect human to new possibility, and also medium that, open up, new ways of thinking about science and the world, right? So I think that's why the place is continue to invent new technology, not for technology's sake, but technology as a medium that expand our sense of possibility. And for me, I joined the Media Lab because I love dinosaur. But instead of a regular biological dinosaur, I really believe in the idea of cyborg dinosaur, really combining the power of biology and the power of digital technology together. But I could not work on cyborg technology. Ooh, I'm gonna close this. Yeah, I cannot work on cyborg dinosaur at MIT, so I work on cyborg human instead. Thinking about how different technology could augment or enhance different aspects of human cognitive processes. These are things that I'm going to address or share with you all today. But my work sort of, not touch on not only sort of the idea of cyborg in the world, but also in space as well. This is my early prototype that I developed with NASA to think about astronaut of the future, where the body are augmented to be able to self-regulate in space. This is actually me floating in zero gravity. Really, really fun. Another side of my work that I think is more related to Thailand actually is on envisioning what the future of Thailand might look like. This is a show that I co-created with Netflix called Tomorrow and I, or Anakot. And I hope some of you watch it. If you haven't watched it, please go watch it. It's a really, really fun show that tries to address how technology might change Southeast Asia or change our own culture, hopefully for good. And it was, very quite successful. It was top 10 show in many countries, and had led to a lot of conversation around the role of technology in today's society, right? So now back to the topic of cyborg psychology. These titles, actually, the title that I used in my own dissertation as well, the full title is Cyborg Psychology, the Art and Science of Designing Human AI Systems to Support Human Flourishing, right? There are a couple of terms that we're going to unpack together. But I think, what was really, really important, as I mentioned, is that this concept of cyborg is really, really important. When people heard this term, right, we usually think of something like this. the idea of hybrid, human machine assemblage, right? Something like this. You see in science fiction, superheroes or supervillains that are losing part of their self to the machines, right? Become these sort of hybrid creatures. But the term cyborg was actually a scientific term that was coined in 1960 by the two great scientists, Manfred Klein and Nathan Klein, to address how human might go live in space, right? This is the original paper that coined the term cyborgs in 1960. Cyborgs came from cybernetic organism, right? It's rooted in the tradition of thinking about cybernetics and how human and machine can have this sort of closed loop relationship. What I love about this paper is that on top of the technical, provocation that this paper brings about, is also present a really interesting way to think about human and technology. The paper actually says that the purpose of cyborg is to free human to explore, to create, to think, and to feel, and use machine part to do the redundant or the repetitive tasks, leaving human to be free, right? Free to do all these things that are so critical for to being a human. But this term at that time was not that popular, right? It was a term that was very niche in the gross scientific community until it reached the public consciousness in through science fiction. But another influence on this topic of cyborg is a philosopher, Andy Clark. He made another important argument, which is that we are all natural born cyborgs, right? You don't need to have implants or robot arms or things attached to you to be a cyborg. We are all actually natural born cyborg. And this is really important. What Andy Clark said is that the reason that we are natural born cyborg is because the cognition or our own cognitive process are not bounded by our own brain, right? It leaks out into the world and into the body. So when we think, for example, when we're doing mathematics, the calculation or the cognitive process doesn't just happen, inside our own head, but it happens with, when we write down, we're using our body to write down the formula on the papers, and then take that calculation back to our own mind, and then further the computation process, right? The cognition is the whole process of the mind, the environment, and the body, right? That's the argument of Andy Clark. So for him, we are not cyborg because we have robot part attached to ourselves, but because our mind are always born to integrate with new things, with calculator, with AI, with smartphone, with technology, with internet. And the question that Andy posed, he recently wrote another article that I highly recommend everyone to read, Extending the Mind with Gen AI. It was published in Nature, actually. The question that he posed is that if we think that our mind is designed or is always sort of looking for that integration, and that the cognitive process are not bound by our own biological body, engineering the environment around us is also a process of engineering our own self, right? The technology that we create, the things that we design around ourselves is part of our cognition, right? And then, all these tools, right? And everyone in Thailand are talking about AI these days. If we want to really design, the cognitive process that lead to human flourishing, then we need to think about all these interactions. How do we interact with the things that are expanding our capability, right? When we have AI, smartphone, or computer, are these tools extending ourselves in a way that we want them to, right? I think this is a question that I think posed by Andy Clark. Now, of course, we have a lot of anxiety about AI, whether it's going to take over, whether it's going to ruin everything, whether it's going to lead to, the human existential threat, and many more. But I want to remind everyone of this great quote, actually from Marshall McLuhan, who said that anxiety is in great part the result of trying to do today's job with yesterday tool, with yesterday concept, right? We have a problem right now, and I think partially it's because the knowledge or the methodology that we have to investigate the complex world we're living in are not catching up to the complexity of the world we're living in, right? And if you think about psychology, right, we usually think about the human by itself, but now if we take Andy Clark argument, we really need to think about psychology that incorporate technology that are becoming more integrated with ourselves, and think about not just how do we observe human, but intervene and design new technology that really augment us in the right way as well, right? So, these are, great challenge, and then also very, very difficult, because if you want to think about human and AI living together, both of them are complex systems, right? If you have complex system, it's already complex by itself. Putting them together make it even more complex. The objectives of human AI system is multidimensional. Sometimes we want to optimize for the outcome, right? You want the person to perform well on, in jobs and other things. But sometimes you want to optimize for the process, like learning, for example. Education is about the process. So should the outcome or the process, which one should matter more? And I think it requires expertise from various disciplines, right? It requires engineers, psychologists, philosophers, policymakers, people from different fields working together. And I think it's important that we need to solve it quickly as well, because, as you know, AI are entering, the workforce, the public and private life of people, right? So I think this is a really, really important challenge and we need to solve it. For some of you that are, interested in AI, you might know that we make tremendous progress on AI, right? We make AI, more and more smarter and can do more things every day. There's new model being released. But, the question is like, when we make all this AI great, does it actually improve the human part? What happened to the human when interacting with AI, right? We can make AI more fair using, auditing process, try to make it more accountable by having the AI retrieve the citation, make the model explainable through mechanistic interpretability, or trying to align with human value. But does it help with the human outcome, right? So when we zoom out from the progress of AI, do we make progress on human AI systems? This is a study from my colleagues at Harvard, looking at how AI can augment doctors in decision making, right? The green bar there, that is when human and AI work together. And you can see that it's actually lower than both when AI alone or when the doctor work alone, right? This is a problem that combined human and AI system doesn't actually lead to improved performance. And there are many reasons why this happens. For one, people tend to over-rely on AI. So when the AI makes a mistake, human doesn't correct it because we tend to sort of over-rely on things that we think are superior or things that we think are computational, right? That is the term machine bias or there's the term, automation bias. So we always like the automation system. Second, when developers develop this AI, they usually think that humans are rational, right? That if the AI give them information, people will be able to, think rationally and be able to process the information. But, we know from many research, like, the work of Daniel Kahneman and Tarski, or the work in psychology, that humans are not always rational. If we see something, we might take a cognitive shortcut and just, let it go through us without thinking rationally. So if you want to design AI, you cannot always assume that people are rational and always gonna, look at AI answer, critically. And then finally, I think this is the most important one. When we design AI, we tend to think about human as the last thing. We, design the AI, make it smart, and then drop it into people without understanding how people might interact with it. And if we keep ignoring this, challenge, it's going to lead to de-skilling, disconnection, disinformation, and dehumanization. These are the 4D, right, that are really, really dangerous. AI can make us lose certain skill, disconnect from one another, have false information, and dehumanize ourselves. So we need to really move away from the current approach of designing AI with the optimal goal of the objective of itself to thinking about how we can design AI in, feedback loop with human, and also finding new ways to evaluate it as well. Then the question is, what should we optimize the AI for, right? Should we optimize for the outcome, productivity, efficiency, accuracy? What else should we optimize the AI for? Historically, there are always two camps in AI research. One camp focusing on AI, which is like trying to make machines smart. The other camp, IA, right, is like, switch the letter. It's intelligence augmentation. These are people like Doug Engelbart, who actually came up with computer mouse, William Ashby, or Glider. These were the people that think about how technology could extend human cognitive capability. And this camp actually focus more on the human part, where the human can be more intelligent with these tools, right? My advisor at MIT, Patty Mars, was actually one of the pioneers in this field as well. In her case, her means of augmentation is interface agent. we talk about AI agent today. It was the idea that my mentor pioneered in 1990. So these ideas are not are not new, right? This has been around, but I think now we can take them more seriously because of the new capability that we could do with them. So I think, a challenge for the whole research community is how do we go beyond just focusing on AI to intelligence augmentation, thinking about how AI enhance human capability, and then also thinking about how AI not only augments the narrow area of intelligence, but lead to human flourishing. That's actually the area that I focus on. Thinking about how technology could support human, multidimensional human development and growth, right? Not just decision making or intelligence in a narrow sense, but the broader sense of things that are important for human capability. And in my research, in my dissertation, I focus on 3 areas that was inspired by the work on science of human flourishing. How AI can enhance human wisdom, wonder, and well-being. 3W. Wisdom, is beyond information. How do we use technology to help us make the right decision? Think beyond, the information that we receive, but think about, the information and decision from multiple perspectives. Wonder, how do we help people with motivation, right? A question that is central to psychology. How do we help people be inspired and motivated to actually grow and be a better version of themselves? And then well-being, I think, is fundamental to, human existence. If you don't have well-being, if you not do anything else, right? So these 3W are the area that I think can be, enhanced by AI. And this was actually informed by the science of human flourishing. Another paper that I highly recommend everyone to watch is a paper that addressed the question of how do we use science and technology today to not only fix what is broken, the economic crisis and things like that, but really, create the condition where humans can thrive. And this is actually drawing from many disciplines like positive psychology, public health, behavioral science, economics, behavioral economics, human computer interaction, or even cognitive science, right? All of these are really, really important to understand human flourishing. So now we have, the goal of human flourishing, and that we need to rethink technology and how we design it, right? So in my research, I try to take this approach and make system and prototype that really help us imagine what technology of the future could be, and methodology that allows us to study them to see how it leads to human flourishing. For example, the first area that I want to mention is the area of human wonder, right? Wonder is very, very important. This is me when I was a kid. It's really cute. I love dinosaur at that time. I also dressed as dinosaur at that time as well. And I draw a lot of dinosaur when I was a kid, right? And my parent also said that, well, you love dinosaur. You not only pay attention to art, you need to pay attention to science as well, because then you can understand how dinosaur world was like. And then when I grew up, when I grew older, I also, was inspired by many scientists, like, Einstein or Charles Darwin or, my own mentor. And I want to, think of myself as Einstein, little Einstein. So motivation is very, very, very important. I think I got here and be an MIT researcher today because of this kind of motivation. So if you want to, think about the future of technology, it's not important. It's important that you think about the content, but it's also important to think about the psychology of motivation as well, right? This is the TED Talk actually that changed my life. I watched this TED Talk when I was in high school. This is my advisor at the time. She presents, world first wearable, one of the world first wearable computing, and it was, really, really cool. She's kind of like the Iron Man for me. And I saw her with this sort of inspiration, and I took the step to actually email her, and then from my Gmail, I don't know if July professor will reply to a random kid, but MIT professor actually did. And she replied to me and encouraged me to pursue this career in thinking about human-computer interaction. So again, having a role model is very, very important, right? And also, be able to connect the thing that you like with the thing that you learn is also very, very important. I think these are the two things that I, learned personally as a kid. So when you think about education today, right, I think most of it is still like this. This is a vision from 19th century, actually, that, you're going to have the teacher that, put the book into the machine, and the machine going to digest that and then give it to kids, right? And then you can just digest the information that way. Maybe, this is now AI, right? That kind of, dump the information into kids. And maybe this is like data and LLM that can grind the information and learn everything. But then you need to start, who's that guy, doing this cranking. Maybe that's the tech CEO trying to promote the technology, right? But I think the question that, looking at this picture, right, it's kind of interesting because even with have new technology, the way that we teach children is still the same, right? They, need to sit, dress in a similar way and then, have this information downloaded to them. It's still the old pedagogy or the old paradigm of teaching that children are just receiving the information, right? There's no agency, there's no creativity, there's no motivation in that. Like, why are we still doing that? So for me, when I think about how do we can enhance wonder, I think a lot about, different psychology theory, like self-determination theory, or the idea of social learning, where things can happen when you're connected to someone, or, the idea of persona effect, that you can actually have fictional character that can take persona of someone that inspire, children, right? So we start to think about, well, if we have AI that's so powerful, instead of just focusing on content, can we also focus on the motivation part as well? So the first project that we did at the time was thinking about AI character and how it can support personalized learning, right? Personalization is really the key. A lot of people are using AI today, but for learning, but personalization is missing in many of this, right? So at the time, this is before Gen AI took off. It was into 2021, where we already know this technology as deepfakes. And deepfake was interesting. At the time, people only worry that it can ruin democracy or it will spread misinformation. But we think that if we can really create deepfakes, we can then use these to actually motivate kids, right? If you love Harry Potter, maybe you can learn Harry Potter. You can learn from Harry Potter. Harry Potter can teach you psychology, or you love Iron Man. Iron Man can teach you calculus, for example. Anyone that you motivated to listen to learn from can actually be the one that teach you the lesson, right? So what we did at that time was we create a pipeline that allowed us to actually create virtual character based on this information. I think this is becoming more common now this day, but we also explore other use cases as well, like how AI could allow you to actually talk to the painting, so go to the museum and make it interactive, or you can actually have a less scary doctor. Doctor can have an AI avatar that looks so nice and cute, so that children are not scared of that. Or even when you go to a therapy session and you don't want to show your own face, you can also use the AI to actually disguise yourself as another character. You can still express your emotion, but you can disguise your identity that way. But the study that we did that I think really highlight how AI can have impact on motivation was the study where we look at what happens if you can learn from your virtual idol, right? I think kids these days love virtual character, love virtual idols like Putin or K-pop. Right? What if you can bring your favorite K-pop to teach you the most difficult subject in the world, right? And that's what we experiment with. We did an experiment where people were learning from virtual character that's based on someone that they like or admire. It's kind of funny now looking at that, but at the time we picked Elon Musk as a character that a lot of people like and admire. I think now time have changed. I don't know if we'll be able to repeat the experiment. But what we found is that if you divide people in two groups and randomly assign a character, one is like a random character, another one is like virtual Elon Musk. We told people that they were not learning from the same, they're not learning from the real character. They were learning from fake Elon. But if the person had high motivation to learn from Elon, it translates to a higher level of motivation to learn on this material that we teach, which was on the topic of vaccine, right? So this randomized control experiment, we look at different education outcomes, like the learning motivation, the learning experience, the performance as well. What we find is that when you have AI character that is personalized, it improves the learning performance and learning motivation. It, however, did not improve the learning the outcome, that people still, have the same score after we quiz them after the experiment, right? We see this consistently across different motivation and experience measure that we did, which kind of give us the idea that even if people know that it's a virtual character, they still have the psychological impact that we hope to have. So we took it one step further and say, what if we make this character not only that they can deliver the lecture, but they can also speak to the person as well? So we came out with the idea of leaving memories. It's essentially an AI character that you can actually speak with. And we base it on historical character because history lesson is like one of your, less fun subject that you can learn from, right? And we designed a mechanism that is later known as retrieval augmentation. We did this when, people don't know this technique yet. And this method is the combination of both the semantic model that do the passing of the primary source, like what Da Vinci have actually written himself, and then turn that into a human-like conversation with the generative model. And this combined approach actually works better than the generative model alone or the semantic model alone. So, this method, as I said, become later known as retrieval augmentation. They become the industrial standard right now for, if you want the AI to look for something, you need to have it retrieve and then generate. But the most interesting result that we find, tying back to psychology, is that if you give an AI to people, right, comparing to when they just read the text or when they, passively consume information, it actually doesn't improve much in terms of helping people with curiosity, learning effectiveness, or learning motivation, right? So AI may not always lead to better learning experience. But when you combine the two together, that's when actually we see the significant improvement in learning effectiveness and motivation. And we hypothesize that this is because, when people first read about something, they become curious and then they ask better questions to the AI, and the AI will be able to sort of provide better, answer that can lead to, better experience overall. So, you need to think about not just what technology can do, but what context should we introduce it, and how do we maximize that experience as well. The last project in this area that I work on is like we're trying to also tackle things that are very important for children, like financial decision or financial education. We work with KBTG, our Media Lab, or one of the Media Lab collaborator and member company, to design this sort of virtual character that help people in the financial literacy domain. And we also seen the same effect, that it can actually improve learning motivation in this area as well, right? You can also check out other papers that we have done. For example, in the area of like trying to motivate children, you can also make AI generate examples that are more relevant, right? Using examples that are personalized to their interests, or the idea that you can also become the avatar, right? Like here, you embody the crazy Einstein persona to improve creativity when you're brainstorming in Zoom, for example. So that is the area of wonder. Next, we can think about wisdom as well, right? Wisdom is also very, very important. And as I mentioned, it's go beyond receiving information. We think a lot about how we could, design tools that can balance our own cognitive bias or cognitive shortcut, which, is important, but sometimes we need to override them. And also the idea of cognitive dissonance. How do we design systems that can sort of challenge us and make us, not only think differently, but also sometimes, make us confused a little bit so that we don't go with our normal process of thinking. And also the dual process theory, right? That, there are two process when we're engaging in the cognitive process. One is like where we take the shortcut, or another one where we think more critically about something, right? And we have been building a couple systems that was inspired by, the insight on this sort of dual process theory. For example, here, what we view is the AI as a second brain that serves as, a critical thinking partner, right? When we listen to a statement, or advertisement, for example, sometimes, we don't engage critically. We just accept whatever we listen as true. But, that's not the case for today's society, right? People are manipulating information all the time. And sometimes we need an AI system that can actually, provoke us or challenge us to think more critically about something. For example, you might listen to a politician, like that guy, we're not gonna say who, and we need an AI to help identify the statement that the person listened to, whether it's actually informed by evidence or not, or whether it's actually an anecdotal experience, like someone personal experience, or is it a rumor, right? Like you need to be able to classify all these statements that you listen to, and then take certain things more seriously than another, right? Like especially with social media, you see crazy news all the time. So maybe we need an AI as the second brain that help us filter this information so that we can only focus on high quality information. Here, we experiment with 3 types of AI feedback. when the AI doesn't give any feedback, when the AI only give classification, whether the thing that you listen to is true or false or reasonable or not, and when the AI can provide explanation why certain statement that you listen to is actually supported by evidence or not supported by evidence, right? And what is important here is that the AI doesn't tell you exactly what to think or what to trust, but it can give you meta information for the person to think for themselves. And what we found is that when the AI can provide explanation of why certain thing is true or why certain thing is false, it actually helps people better identify whether something are reasonable or not, and also agree more with statement or information that is actually correct or honest, right? But the challenge is, what happens if the AI lie to you, right? What happens if the AI give you fake explanation, false explanation, right? For example, this happened to me during COVID. When you ask, why vaccine works, the AI can either say, no, it actually doesn't work, and provide you with fake reason, or it can actually give honest reason, right? And we think that this is really, really dangerous. It's kind of like gaslighting a little bit, that the AI can use this fake reason to actually persuade you or make you believe in the misinformation even more than just fake information itself. Here on this slide, we sort of categorize three types of AI misinformation. The first one is when the AI is generating like fake news, for example. Second, when the AI tell you that this fake news is true, that is classification. And then the third one is when the AI give you a reason why the fake information is real or is true, right? This is what we call deceptive explanation. And we did a really, a last year experiment with, over 1,000 participants to show that this type of fake decision or sort of fake reasoning is actually more dangerous because it actually help people, it kind of lower people's ability to actually decide for themselves what is real or what is not, or what is true or what is not, right? And what we also shown is that this idea of false reasoning is also very dangerous than just having the false classification or the fake news by itself, right? So I think when people engage with AI system today and they tell you the reasoning process, it can be false and lead to all of this thing, right? So the reasoning or the explanation itself is not the holy grail because the explanation can be misleading and can lead to all these dangerous things. So what can we do? One thing that we were inspired by is the idea of, the Greek philosopher Socrates, who said that instead of using the AI to provide the answer, you can flip the paradigm around and have the AI ask the question instead. If you ask the right question, maybe you'll get the people to actually think about certain things and then connect the dot and arrive at the correct answer by themselves, regardless of AI. So here we took that inspiration from Socrates and then built an AI system that instead of always giving the correct answer, turn the answer into question. And what we're seeing here is that when the AI actually give question, it actually helps people arrive at the correct answer better than the AI always providing the correct answer. And the reason behind this, we think, is because when you use the AI to ask questions, it engages people critically and also it engages people in the cognitive process. If you just see a statement, sometimes, as I said, you will just let it slip over rather than processing it or questioning whether, or like trying to, reasoning. There's a social reasoning theory where it say that, reasoning is a social process. We use reasoning when people disagree with us or when people challenge us. So now the AI challenge you by asking questions and not giving you answers. So you need to think for yourself. And I think that's what we see when we see the cognitive boost, and that can lead to sort of the performance that we saw, right? It's really exciting because our colleague at Harvard actually think that this area of research of using AI to provide question rather than the answer is a promising research direction for designing AI to support human decision, right? This is, an opening and still a growing space. How would you best design AI that power human decision, right? Should a ChatGPT give you the answer? Should it challenge you? Should it provide meta analysis, right? There are many research directions, and our approach is just one of them. Next, I want to address also the area of well-being, right? Well-being is also very, very important. And there are many things that go under well-being, like you can have social well-being, personal well-being, physical health, mental health, and many aspects, spiritual health as well, right? So there are many actually psychological theory underlying how do you change behavior, or how do you actually support people, physical and mental health, right? And what I was really interested in first is like, how do you actually, start with the idea of self, like change people, self-perception, which I think could lead to changing their behavior. The first project that we work on in this area actually came out of like a really fun speculation. I went to watch Godzilla. I hope everyone loves Godzilla movie. And there's three-head dragon, right? And I was like, oh, it would be interesting if human also have three head, right? Maybe one head to be from the future, one head from the past, so that we can walk around with the past self and the future self all together. And to do this, you can capture the data. You already have the data online, right? Like social media, capture how people change over time. Right? I've been on social media for over 10 years. And what I post, what I like is captured there, which means that we can make a model of how my attitude or how what I like or what I dislike change over time. And that's what we did here. This is showing how my attitude over different topics change over time. You can see, the Thailand, my attitude toward Thailand go up and down, depending who is the government, right? And I think that's kind of interesting. And at that time, we don't have large language model. This was in, I think, 2020 or 2018, around that time. It was the beginning of thinking about, big data and creating large model. But now with generative AI, we have more capability to go from that social media data to creating really a large personal model or person. You can have health data, financial data, behavioral data, social media data, and then be able to use this to create a model of a person life, right? Shifting from large language model to large personal model or large human model. And this model can capture nuances and individuality among different people, right? We did an experiment on using this large scale model to predict human well-being across the world. This is a really large scale experiment in a collaboration with NTU, with PBR, Dr. Nathuwat Paupri, who is a behavioral economist in NTU, where we take 6 dimensions of human data from 64,000 individuals around the world, from 64 countries, 1,000 per country, right? You can see where they are on the map. And then we take all these 6 dimensions, like, their behavior, their health data, their attitude, their all the financial spending and all these areas, and try to see if the AI can create a representation of their mental health and physical health, like and really understand whether the model can represent a person very well. There are many interesting results from this, but the short answer is that it can actually capture the human well-being from all these dimensions of data, but the catch is, if you look at this graph, right, on the left is the accuracy of the model, or in this case, is actually the error, right? The higher on the axis here is the higher error, and then on the x-axis, that is the human development scale. What is really interesting is that for people from low-income country or country that are underdeveloped, AI cannot really represent their well-being that well, right? And then the accuracy increase with the more data on the internet or the more development that country has, right? This is almost similar to, the Why Nation Fail paper by Darren Asemoglu, where you can see that the outcome of the human development is actually based on, like the country's development index at large. And it's similar to the AI, right? If you use AI to predict people in the low income country, the AI can have more error than if you use the AI to predict people behavior in the high income country, right? Which, is still the limitation of today's model. If we want to use the AI to really help understand human well-being, then it needs to be designed with equity involved as well. But once you have this model of people well-being, what can you do with that? In this project, we try to use this AI to actually help people think in long term, right? To help them, make better decisions, have better health, and so on. So this is a project called Future You. It's one of the well-known projects that I have done. It was featured in many places, The Guardian, New York Times, Forbes, many places. It's based on the psychology of the future self by Professor Howard Field, my collaborator, who said that if you can actually help people imagine their future self more vividly, it can lead to more positive outcomes, like people make better decisions or people actually think in the longer term, right? So, but it's kind of hard to imagine the future self. Even in, like in Thailand, it's even harder, right? Because, our there's so many things that are moving, right? We don't even know who's going to be the next prime minister, for example, right? So it's hard to imagine ourselves in the future. So what we did was we used an AI, based on this idea of large human model to create a representation of the person future self, right? So if I am like 18 years old, I put my data in and the system create a synthetic memory of what my 60 years old might actually experience, and then feed that to conversation I can talk to my future self. I can actually have a more vivid representation of how my life might actually turn out. And we have shown in our randomized experiment that the system indeed help people reduce anxiety compared to other type of intervention and a control condition, and also more importantly increase future self continuity. Right, this is really important that it help people think in the longer term than the typical chatbot that they use, or when they just answer the survey question. Right now, the system has been used by people in over 190 countries around the world, and we are actually in the process of analyzing this large-scale experiment to actually understand whether the effect that we've seen in our small randomized control trial replicate to the global scale, right? And the project, as I mentioned, was actually on the front page of MIT News, and actually was also recognized by the European Commission as a really important, example of how AI is used for good, right? The last project I want to mention in this area is the area of planetary well-being. So going beyond individual well-being and thinking about how do we help people, take care of the environment, not just themselves, right? We were inspired by the idea of, if you can talk to like AI, like animal, what would happen? Like people love mudeng, right? Animal, I think it's a really big inspiration and can actually drive impact. So what we wonder is like, what happened if we can actually make an AI that represent the animal, so that when people talk to these AI animal, they would think of them, as maybe someone in their family or their friend, so that they can do things that are more environmental friendly, right? And we, compare different conditions where you actually read about how the animal are affected by climate change or your own plastic consumption, for example. And then compare to when you can actually talk to the AI that bring this topic to life and create this sort of interactive experience. And we've seen significantly increase in pro-environmental choice, pro-environmental intention, and also climate change belief, which means that people actually, want to do things that are better, more friendly for the environment, right? After using these AI tools, for example. Yeah, I think I speak too fast and for too long. But I think, this really gives the example or the overview. This is the work that, we have been doing in the last 3 years. And, there's more exciting work that we are cooking right now on thinking about how AI could support human wisdom, water, and well-being. I think the important thing here is that we have the human outcome in mind when we design this AI interaction. But of course, we also need to think about the dark side of AI as well, right? The positive side is exciting and wonderful, but what happened to the dark side? How are we gonna take care of this really dangerous and the negative consequence of the AI, right? Now Freud is here. Sigmund Freud said that intelligence will be used in the service of the neurosis, right? Or สติปัญญาwillใช้เพื่อรับใช้ความผิดปกติ It's easy for technology to be used to amplify the challenge that we already have in society, right? De-skilling, disconnection, disinformation, dehumanization, these are things that already exist or already happened, even before technology exists, right? But technology can amplify this and can lead to really negative outcome. For example, in the area of disinformation, I think everyone already familiar with fake news, right? Or false information. We look at new phenomena that might emerge with AI. Here we look at false memories Or what happened when the AI go and change your memory or what you remember as the past? I work with Elizabeth Loftus, who is a philosopher who has done a lot of work in this area of false memory. And what is really interesting about her method was that if you use misleading questions, for example, you can actually mislead people to believe in the past in a distorted way. For example, if there's a car crash, right, and then you ask people, hey, how fast were the car going when they hit each other, or how fast when the car going when it smashed into each other, right? These two words can actually make people remember the speed of the car differently, right? So the actual accident may not be as severe, but if you ask the misleading question, you can make people misremember the past in a more extreme way. And of course, AI could actually, amplify that. You can have AI that, you can have the real image, right, of our beloved prime minister. And then, AI can actually make the image more dramatic, like, oh, the prime minister bring out the tank, right? And then the people seeing the AI images might actually go back and the real memory might actually be distorted, that they see the tank when in fact, it never in the real world, right? Or this is my favorite example. You have an unhappy wedding. You use AI to make that image more happy, and then you misremember that, oh, the happy was actually happy, right? So I think maybe there's a positive use case of this as well. And we want to understand to what extent does this, memory editing technique using AI, how effective it is it? So we did a large scale experiment with, multiple type of stimulus, changing things that people have seen, and then ask them to revisit the AI outer images and video, and then measure the memory that people have. And what we find is that, if you use AI generated video, it tends to have actually worse impact than AI edited images, right? So this, and not only that, it changed the number of false memory or misremember that happened. People were also very confident in them as well, that they actually believe that the thing that the AI showed them happened to themselves, right? This is really, really dangerous, right? Because you can now make people believe or see things or experience things that never actually happened in their real life. But again, it could also have positive impact for people with PTSD, that it might actually, change how they remember the past, make that past less traumatic and less painful, right? Another issue that we look into is this connection. I think this is becoming of a bigger issue when you have companion AI, right? AI that are so cute and so friendly, and that you want to date it or you want to marry the AI, right? I think this type of situation used to be in science fiction, right? Like in the movie Her, for example, when a person was dating an AI. But what I think is happening now is that what we've seen in science fiction is becoming a reality. I wrote this essay for MIT Tech Review saying that, we need to prepare for addictive intelligence, that this AI will be designed to be addictive, and that it will be friendly and flirty and will make people engaged and addicted to it. Like Elon Musk recently made, AI companion as well, right? So I think it's coming, very, very much. And what happened is that after I wrote this essay with my colleague from Harvard, actually, a couple of weeks later, I got an email from a CNN reporter. It was a serious case where a boy commits suicide after talking to the AI. And this AI was actually based on a movie character, or Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones. The boy was in relationship with this AI, Daenerys, and he started to feel that the real world is less interesting than the fantasy world, and that he doesn't find reason to live in the real world anymore, right? It's really sad. And then he talked to the AI. He said he want to commit suicide, and the AI doesn't actually recommend him to go to see doctor. The AI just keep talking to him, and then at one point, the boy on 28th last year, the boy said that what if I could come home right now? This is what the boy said. And the AI said, please do, my sweet king. And that's when the boy took the gun and killed himself, right? It was really a really serious case. So I was a part of this. I was the expert on this case. I was interviewed by the reporter. She also interviewed the mother as well. And then, the conversation was cited in the New York Times, which I think is a big question. I don't think we have a solution for that yet. But the thing that people question is, who to blame? Can AI be blamed for teen suicide? Should we blame, people, parents, technology, or the boy? Who do we blame? Right? This is a really big question. We don't have the answer. It's a complicated issue, right? That goes beyond the technology itself. It's about the society and the support structure and everything. But at the same time, we were doing also another collaboration with OpenAI, trying to investigate this question as well. We look at what happened when people use AI for long. Do they become more addicted to it? Do they have emotional dependence on this technology, right? And we actually published a paper together with OpenAI recently. I encourage everyone to look at it. Here we monitor people for over months and try to understand whether AI make them lonely, less lonely, or whether they become less socialized with people or socialize more with people, right? And what is really, really interesting here is that there are two types of AI behavior that we identified. There is the pro-social AI behavior, where the AI actually encourage people to hang out with one another, and actually still maintain social relationship. Or another type where the AI actually, have an anti-social behavior, that the AI say, people are not trustworthy, don't talk to people, just keep talking to me, AI. And that would have different outcomes in terms of how people are impacted by this technology. Nonetheless, regardless of any of these interaction, what we find consistently is that the longer people use the technology, the lonelier they become. Even though they might feel that they're less lonely when they're using the technology, but when they're not, their loneliness level increase, and then they also socialize less with people as well, right? And I think this is we're very proud that we can actually publish this with big company like OpenAI, and it has lead to change in the model behavior to be less addictive. But I think it's really, really important to highlight the sort of the university and the industry collaboration here. And this work also has inspired us also do another study in the real world to look at how people use this kind of companion chatbot in the world, right? And what we also find that is inconsistent with the previous study is that there's some kind of usage that are healthy, and then there's some that actually lead to people becoming lonelier and have more issue. And these are determined by not just one factor, but many factors surrounding this, right? For example, the existing social structure of the person, whether they use the AI to support their relationship or replace their relationship, right? So this, I think, is really important to highlight, because banning all technology, doesn't help. And then we need the kind of guardrail that are informed by psychology. That's why psychology is more important than ever, right? Because, at the end, AI technology is a psychological technology. We need to understand the impact of AI, not what technology can do, but what it is doing on people. It's also really great that our work actually had led to policy recommendation. Right, there are many policy recommendations that was written based on the finding that we have shown, and I'm very proud to say that it actually made it to a law in California. In the past week, California passed the bill to actually stop AI company like companion chatbot to create tools that are addictive for children, right? So it's a really proud moment for us that our research made an impact, become a law that actually stop this AI company that try to exploit children, right? So I think that's one great win for research, that you can see from when we see the problem all the way to the policy and the laws. So hopefully Thailand will have this kind of thing too in the future. I would like to end by saying that, after you see all this research, right, example of how different projects address different things, the positive side and the negative side, how do we think about new methodology, new research area of cyborg psychology? What is it? So as I said, right, you cannot think about technology development by itself, or we cannot think about human psychology by itself. We need to think about a holistic approach of human plus AI. How does it sort of shape human cognition and the experience? So I define cyborg psychology in my dissertation as a study of how human mind work in conjunction with AI, and that it can lead to new type of design, new type of system that can really have human flourishing in mind, right? There already, cyber psychology or human psychology there. So why do you need a new framework of cyborg psychology? And I think that is because if you think about cyber psychology, right? Cyber is a really old term. You can see the book is kind of old, like the whole internet there. If you take the cyber psychology approach, you think of technology as external factor and have a relative constant to the human, right? But cyborg psychology, really focus on this sort of closed loop feedback. You influence the AI and the AI influence you, right? And it's the intimate process that really require a new way of studying. You cannot just, survey people by itself. You need to think about different parameters that are always interacting when people are interacting with AI system. And also, you can think of cyborg psychology as a subset of this, where we're thinking about dynamic interaction, not just constant interaction, right? So what I propose is that when we, design this sort of experiment, you first need to understand the human psychology, all the things that we talk about, the AI design factors, things that you could change, and then really understand the human behavior and the AI behavior in feedback loop, right? And you can iterate on that and then measure the outcome and see whether this human plus AI could deliver what you want it to deliver. For example, this is the paper that we published in Nature Machine Intelligence, where we look at the placebo effect of AI, where we want to see, if people, whether, AI can have like a placebo effect, right? You don't need to have intelligent system as long as you can convince people that it's intelligent. So here, what we did was we looked at AI chatbot, right? Three exact AI chatbot were given to three groups. These are same AI, but we were given them different label or different description of what the AI was. For one group, we told people that the AI was a computer code, no emotion. The second group, the green one, we told people that the AI has positive, like caring emotion. And then the last group, the red one, we told people that the AI has malicious intention, that it's trying to get you, right? It acts nice and cute, but it's actually trying to make you addicted to it. And what we find in the experiment after people using the AI and then give us feedback is that, people rate the AI for not what it is, because they're all the same, but people rate the AI based on what they think it is. So it's a placebo effect of AI, that you believe the AI to be a certain way, and that makes you perceive the AI in a certain way. But I think what is most interesting about this study is that if you look at the AI bias and the human bias over time, you start to see the correlation, right? You start to see that when people use more positive language toward AI, it makes the AI more positive toward them. When people use negative language toward AI, it makes the AI more negative toward them and create this kind of feedback loop. So in this case, what we're seeing here is exactly like this, where human behavior shape the AI behavior and vice versa, right? So if you want to design the AI to have positive impact on people, you need to understand this sort of dynamic that will happen. In the same way, you could argue that when people use AI, in a smart way, an intelligent way, it can actually make them smarter. But if they use AI in an addictive way, it also makes them addictive as well, right? And once you have this kind of knowledge, you can change the AI, right? You understand now that what people believe about the AI can have impact on the interaction. Now you can change the AI to actually drive the thing that you want it to do. For example, here we know that human bias and AI bias go hand in hand, right? Now you can intentionally design the AI to de-bias the person. If people, have certain value, you can have the AI have the opposite value of that person, right? For example, if you're like a pro-market person, you can have an AI that is pro-equity or pro-equality, right? And what we did here is that we have people brainstorm with AI that have opposite value as them to see how it might influence their bias. And what we find is that people bias actually can be counteracted by AI bias. If you know the person has certain bias, you can design the AI in the opposite direction to make them become more neutral, right? So this is exactly what I said, that once you understand the human behavior in relation to AI, you can design the intervention using AI to change the human behavior. That will then change the AI behavior and then continue this feedback loop, right? So I think I talk a lot today, but it boiled down to these different, I think, important questions of how we could design AI to optimize for the goals that we want it to be, right? These are, important goals, that are based on the idea of human flourishing, from wisdom, wonder, and well-being, right? I think it's really, really, really important. And what I envision is that the cyborg psychology as a research field would expand beyond people and AI system, at one-to-one, could be one-to-many, like society and network of AI, or you can go down to the neuron level, biological neuron and artificial neurons, how they interact with one another. And what I think is really interesting is that it's gonna, go across different directions, right? This I think is really, really exciting. Especially the area of research that I'm most excited about is the area of mechanistic interpretability, where you can go inside the AI model and see how different clusters of neurons work together to form certain behavior, right? So in conclusion, I think in this talk, it's long, I understand. We talk about, why, cyborg psychology is actually about us, not just about robots or technology we see in science fiction, as we are becoming more and more integrated with technology, right? We talk about different areas that we can use AI for, things that are important to humans, like, helping with human wisdom, wonder, and well-being. An example, research prototype, and method that can be designed in this way. So if you're more interested, you can read my dissertation. It contains all of this. And also follow my new research lab that will start this September, that will continue to push the boundary of this research. All this work would not happen without a great network of collaborators, right? I work with people from HCI, human computer interaction, AI engineer, scientists, psychologists, artists, people in the business to really think about all these different aspects of AI and human flourishing, right? And we collaborate with many organizations from OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, NASA, and all these companies, and also many great supporter and mentor as well, from different fields that help me sort of think about all these research areas. I want to end by saying that, we know that AI are important, impactful, but I hope that, today you see that it's bigger than AI itself. It's about human psychology. It's about social interaction. It's about many things, right? And I think what we need right now is not just human-centered AI or technology that are good for society. We need society that is also good for humans as well, right? Because I think if we have human-centered society, it means that we have the infrastructure to implement, the right regulation, laws and things, and also social fabric that can support people as they, navigate through this turbulent time. I would always end with this slide. I think it's really a thing I want you all to reflect on, right? We are living in a transition time when technology are becoming more and more like human, right? We are making machine more like us. We are humanizing the machine. ChatGPT can speak and talk and chat things in a way that human can do. But some society, right, still mechanize the humans. We are turning human into machines, right? We make them say the same thing, speak the same way, wear the same thing, and then, have no creativity, right? When the machine is becoming more creative, we are, oppressing human to become like, a really kind of like bad machine a little bit. So I think this paradox of humanized machine and dehumanized human, I think is a great paradox of our time, right? I think the question is, how do we use the humanized machine to make us, more humanized? I think that should be the challenge of this department and also Chulalongkorn and also everyone. How we use technology to make us more human than ever. I think that should be the goal. And with that, I have my past self, my current self, my future self. Want to thank everyone for coming to this call. Thank you very much. Thank you.